Y Combinator just redesigned their website, so I figured now would be a good time to take a look at how they're doing OpenGraph. And right off the bat, I noticed a few issues with how they do it that I want to show you so that whenever you're looking at OpenGraph on your website, you know how to use OpenGraph Plus tools and even the platform to make sure that you don't have any issues with your OpenGraph images. All right, so let's start off first. We have this new homepage that is very clear, right? We know that, hey, YC turns builders into formidable founders. That's awesome. But let's flip over to this tab here and actually see this thing. So this is the website. And the first thing that we'll notice whenever we look at the meta tags on the page is we have 3 of these OG image tags. Now, you only need one of those, and really OG image is fine. All of these are fine. I would say you don't really need secure URL. Sure, you can use that, and maybe some consumers will pick it up. But if you just have one of these, that's fine. That's really all you need. On To get this thing working for Twitter, though, you also need a Twitter tag there as well, which we can see. We have this large image up here. That's good. And then for some reason, Twitter wants a Twitter image tag. So um, those are really the two URLs that you need is OG image and of course Twitter image. And then if you want to have that big card in Twitter, you do have to have the summary large image enabled. So that's awesome. All right. Now, where we run into our first issues, if you look at this, this is a preview of what the Y Combinator website looks like when it's shared on Twitter. And off the bat, the first thing that I notice is that the logo is cut off on the top of this thing. So if we take the Y Combinator website and then we go to OG plus og.plus/tools, we're going to get this nice debugger where we can paste in the URL of whatever it is that we want to check out. And then if we want to see, what does this thing look like on Twitter, Discord, or whatever, let's see what it looks like on Twitter. We can put the URL in there, and then here's a preview. This is what this thing looks like on Twitter. And we can see, again, in this preview tool that the logo is cut off. But what the tool gives you is it's going to help you kind of understand, well, why is it being cut off? So here's our tags. These are the OpenGraph tags that's in that metadata, and this is extracted from that. This is good. It's good to see all of these tags in here. That's exactly what I want to see. Now, where we start to run into problems is the image size. So one thing you'll notice about Twitter, and this is true for most OpenGraph websites, they want an aspect ratio that's close to 2:1. And the YC image is pretty far off from that. So they have 1.53:1. Other than that, everything else looks pretty good. The image size is pretty close, close to 1200 by 600. I usually run my images at like 2400 to 1200 so that I get Retina resolution on that. The image size is looking good here. So everything's looking pretty good here, but I would say like this is a pretty big red flag because we can see on Twitter, this logo gets cut off. If we look at any of these other social networks, same thing, right? The logo gets cut off the top, and that's just not really something that you want if you have a logo. Ideally, you can see the whole logo. And I think like a quick fix that we do here is just put an image up here that's a 2:1 ratio. Now, one thing that OpenGraph Plus does, it takes a screenshot of the web page, and it will actually size it to exactly match the dimensions needed by that social network. So you'll see that these are slightly different. We have 1200 by 630 for WhatsApp. If we look at Twitter, we have 1200 by 600. And each social network where this gets shared with OpenGraph Plus, make sure that the image is exactly the right size. That's something, if you're using static images, you're going to need to think about that. Just target a 2:1 ratio and leave some padding on the side just to leave some room for things being clipped. That's not always going to be true, though, if you're sharing on something like Pinterest or some of these other sites that might want squares. Again, you may run into issues there that OpenGraph Plus is going to just automatically solve for you. All right, let's jump back into this thing. So again, this is if you just plug in OpenGraph Plus, it takes a screenshot of the web page. There's no modifications done yet to this, but you can see the logo centered. We have our hero shot there. We could use CSS to hide this apply thing in the navigation if we wanted to and just show the logo in that. So that's one nice thing about the screenshot approach is you just kind of get something that works and it looks pretty good for most pages as long as the website looks good, which Y Combinator's redesign does. So if we go down the list here, we see some more pages, right? This is what this could look like if it's fixed by OpenGraph. Now, these images to the left are actually rendered in real time by OpenGraph, but I had to sideload some templates in there to get it to look like this. Could this look better? Yes, absolutely. I think that there's more time put into this by a designer or a web developer. You could absolutely get something that looks amazing. But I would argue that if I see this link somewhere, I'm going to know like, oh, hey, if I click on this thing, I'm going to be able to apply to Y Combinator. And I know that the deadline coming up is February 9th, which if you are applying, you have 3 days and you should apply. The way that it looks today, though, is, we see this. Make something people want. Again, we have the logo that's cut off. And, we've seen this image before. So we'll move on to the next one, which is partner profiles. Again, this is the kind of quick thing I did where I threw an HTML template into the renderer so that I can actually pull this content from the YC website, kind of massage it a bit, put Jared's name here, the logo up here in the description. And this is just something that's resized perfectly for Twitter. This is what it looks like today. So let's have a closer look at that. And let's look at Gary. So we're going to take Gary's profile and we're going to drop this into the OpenGraph Plus debugger here. And immediately one thing that we're going to run into is Gary's head got cut off, like the top of his head's cut off. The beard and mustache look great, but it'd be awesome if I could see the top of his head. Now, this is another common thing that I see. Again, it's awesome that Y Combinator has OpenGraph, but if we scroll down, we look at the aspect ratio of these images, you can see that we're much further away from that 2-to-1 ratio, and that's where things get really dicey. And we even saw that with the logo. Like that was much closer. It was 1.6 to 1 ratio, and there were still issues with that. So keep that in mind. If you're going to serve up images, make sure they're not square. Make sure they're 2-to-1. OpenGraph just doesn't work how you would expect. And again, this is true for, if we shared this on LinkedIn, Gary's head would be cut off. Wherever we share this, it's probably not going to be sharing correctly. And with OpenGraph Plus, again, there's a lot of ways to style the pages that you come up with, but this is actually being generated in real time by OpenGraph Plus, and it's just being massaged ever so slightly to show the full profile of the partner at Y Combinator, their name, and then of course we have this nice description so that if we got this link, we could read it and not even necessarily have to click through to it. And we could, get some context. But if we did click through to that, it would be pretty nice to, already have this context going in. So you can imagine if we go back and let's let that load. So again, if we flip from, I click on this link and then I land on here, again, I immediately have the context that I need. And I'm not like, whoa, where am I? I'm exactly where I thought I would be whenever I saw that preview and wanted to click on it. All right, so here's another example. There's a directory of companies that Y Combinator has, and this is a similar problem to here, right? This was kind of a square image. Same thing going on here. The OpenGraph image that's being served up is, I think, that logo. I'm not really sure though why that script thing is ending up there. So let's take a look at this a little bit closer. We'll plug this into the OpenGraph Plus tools, and yeah, we can see here that we're just getting scri. So again, if we scroll down, we look at the image size of this thing, we're really far away from that 2-to-1 ratio, and it's off. And the size of it too, we can see that this logo is actually very small, so it's also going to be pixelated, and we see that here, right? We can see pixels. And again, this is going to affect every single social network that this is shared on, at least on, I guess, Blue Sky. We could see some of the logo. I'm not sure what's going on with how this is being displayed. I guess this is being used for the OpenGraph image. That's got to be what it is. So this little logo here is being served up, and that is really far away from being that 2-to-1 ratio. And I would imagine if we click through to all these different companies in here, these logos are probably all very different sizes. So just for fun, let's see what Coinbase's logo looks like. And you know what, let's throw that in here. That's not a square logo though, so I think that's also going to be cut off. All right, so the image size is different. Like, okay, we are getting closer to that 2-to-1 ratio, but it's still quite far off. And you know what? It would be hard. YC has, I think, thousands of companies at this point. So I can't imagine that If you're doing something like this, you probably don't want somebody like manually resizing these things. You could automate it, like maybe use image magic, but then you're going to be stuck dealing with stuff like matching the background color and trying to center this thing inside of the 2-to-1 ratio or whatever. Or, of course, you could just point OpenGraph Plus at it. You can give it a little template. And then again, this is being rendered live. So this is grabbing the HTML document from that profile. It's taking the logo. It's taking some of that data. The styling's a bit off here. I think I would make these bold. That is hard to read. But these are like templates that I whipped up very quickly for a demo. And again, we have the company there and we have the logo. And you can imagine if you click through on that, it'd be pretty nice if you're just taken directly to this profile. So that's what OpenGraph is really about. I like to think of it as a little window into these websites. So again, you click on that and then you end up here. You're oriented. You're not kind of wondering like, what, how did I end up here? And then of course, job listings are kind of the same. I think they might actually not be working here, but let's take a look at that and see what's going on there and why that's not loading. So again, we open this up, we look at the head. Let's look for our OG image. And there's something there. So if we load up the static image, I'm not sure why that's not loading, but you know what, let's see what happens if we put this in our debugger here. All right, so it loads here, but again, we have the same problem where this image from work at a startup is, again, it's very far off from that 2-to-1 kind of magic ratio. Another problem I noticed though is that the description on this thing is huge. So you don't want to have descriptions this big for your OpenGraph text. Sometimes the description can be used in the text. It'll truncate it. It's not the end of the world, but it's just, that is pretty big. And I can't imagine any OpenGraph consumer making any sense of this. It's pretty much like the whole job role. For a description, I think what you want to do is put like senior software engineer at Vanta. Ideally, you don't have the site title in there. It's just senior software engineer at Vanta, and then maybe you have something like the location or something, right? Like the range, something that kind of briefly describes it. And you're probably just pulling data like location, some of this data, I would imagine you'd want that in there. So that should give you a pretty good idea of how most websites, I don't want to say most. So from the analysis I've done on these websites, I want to say like 20%-ish of websites do OpenGraph this way. And as we can see, there's issues whenever you are just like taking any kind of image from your database and serving that up. You really need to resize that thing so that it works the right way. And there's like really a lot of edge cases in OpenGraph that you just otherwise wouldn't think about. And I'll end with this. The thing that I've been using to kind of modify the look and feel of, you know, what YC currently has now and kind of the ideal that I showed if they used OpenGraph Plus, these things called HTML templates. So let's say YC decided, hey, we want to implement this on our website so that our OpenGraph previews look awesome, and we want to use OpenGraph Plus. What they would do is their web developer could create one of these template tags, and this is just standard HTML. These are just HTML templates. They could put this in their head tag on each page, and then they give it an ID of OG Plus, and then they just put whatever they want in here. Now, this example, I'm using JavaScript, so whenever OpenGraph Plus's servers take the screenshot, you could just have JavaScript do this. And that's good if you don't have access to some of the server side rendering stuff. But if you're using something like Rails, this could also just be an ERB snippet, an ERB snippet. So this doesn't have to be JavaScript. It could be injected by ERB, or it can just be whatever. Like as long as it's returning HTML and you can generate a template like this with OG Plus, this is what is going to be grabbed and displayed on screen. And so I had to make a lot of these templates to get these this preview working, and for each page, I kind of had to do this like client side thing per page. But this is the technology that was used inside of OpenGraph Plus to get a website that has a lot of kind of different styles of page to have previews that you know had the logo on the right, the title on the left, and then to have some content in here. So if you're a web developer and you're comfortable using templates, that's one way to do it. There's some other ways to do it with CSS and Tailwind. I'm not going to cover that in this video, but I did want to show you that if you're comfortable using HTML templates, which hopefully most web developers are, this is a quick way to get much better OpenGraph images that automatically resize so you don't run into these issues. And I would imagine getting something like this up and running, the initial installation for something like this, I know YC runs on Rails, so they could install the OpenGraph plus gem. This gem, by the way, it just creates meta tags. That's it. There's no rendering or anything that happens. The OpenGraph plus servers, that's where the heavy lifting happens. So that's where all the rendering stuff happens. And the OpenGraph plus servers actually read the web page that's being requested for an OpenGraph preview, applies the templates for it, takes a screenshot, and then serves that up. And it serves it up at the right size too. So if you can install a gem, and then you put these meta graph tag, or you put these meta tags on your Rails layout, you verify the installation. If you deploy that, you will get something on day one, or I should say within 10 minutes, you will have OpenGraph that looks not like this with the cutoff logo, but it'll take a screenshot of the whole page. So this is just like 10 minutes, you do nothing, you deploy it. And then if you want to tweak it, say you're a web developer or you have a designer in-house, all they have to do is work with these HTML templates to get kind of the next level of refined OpenGraph image designs. And again, that's in docs, HTML, CSS, templates. And it's just standard HTML. This entire stack was designed to be very lightweight, which is using meta tags. There's nothing running on the server. And it was built with web developers in mind. There's tons of web developers out there who understand stuff like this and CSS and all that. So it's a pretty nice stack that's built on web standards. And again, it's very easy to get started on this. It's just a bunch of meta tags. You install the gem. You don't need the gem. You could just throw the meta tags in yourself. And then you start putting templates and all that stuff in there. There is CSS styling if you wanted to do that, where you could actually just take a screenshot of the page and you could hide certain elements on it. So if you wanted to, say, hide the header on it, you could do that. And that's all documented in here. If you use Tailwind, you can say like OG title hidden. So if we look at usage, let's say that you have a navigation header, you might hide that. Cookie banner is another thing. You might say OG plus hidden. And whenever the renderer hits that page, it's going to know, hey, OG plus is the current modifier that's activated, right? Because it's taking a screenshot. Hide this navigation, hide this footer, hide this cookie banner. So you have a lot of options. And again, all of these things are based on web standards. So if you're a web developer and you want to have OpenGraph images generated dynamically per page that are sized correctly for each social network, you will want to go to opengraphplus.com and sign up. Takes under 10 minutes to get started. You have no excuses.